Good afternoon, everyone. This is Dan Jenkins from Steel Camel. Welcome to the Steel Camel studio, where we talk about solving problems, particularly with corrosion and moisture. Today, we're going to talk about rusted bolts and this guy, PB Blaster, which is a reactive product, a reactive maintenance product to loosen bolts. So we have all types of bolts here. We have shackles and pins. Okay, we have U-bolts that get rusty. We have pipe thread that gets rusty. We have rollers that get rusty and corroded and damaged. And we want to talk about how to prevent using this product. By the way, it is a great product. However, it's a reactive maintenance product. So why do the bolts get rusty? Why do they get damaged? Why is it so difficult to remove them, where you would have to use a cheater bar or a breaker bar? Okay? And we want to avoid anything that can hurt you, damage you, particularly for the mechanics out there, the guys that are working really hard. We want to help you prevent struggling with rusted bolts. So let's review and break down some of the chemistry. So if we take one of these threads right here, two things happen to them. They get oxidation. So we're in Tampa, Florida today. It's hot, it's humid, there's plenty of moisture in the air, and the threads will oxidize. They'll actually change the formula or the makeup or the composition of the metal, and it'll start to have rust. Secondly, you look at these nuts, you look at these bolts, they have corrosion damage. So corrosion means being eaten or being damaged, and that can be three things bad. One, it damages the thread, so it's hard to get on and off. Two, it can expand, and it changes the metal. Again, when it expands, it's hard to get the nut off. And three, when you have all those together, it can weaken the bolt or the thread and cause damage, cause a leak, cause something to break, cause something to fail, and we don't want that to have to fail. So I made up this little chart for everybody, just to review, how did we get here? How did we get here? How do we get these damaged bolts? How do we get these damaged threads? There's four main reasons. One, moisture, which we talked about. It's hot, it's humid, but when it cools down, we get condensation. So we all know about moisture. Two, we have good old grime, road grime, good old Tampa street grime right there. So we have metal shavings, and we have grease, and we have dirt, we have rocks, good old grime. Three, we have contamination. Salt water is a good one. Everybody knows about salt water, but there's other contamination. There is phosphate. So if you go 60 miles from here, there's a phosphate plant. We have mines of phosphate. It gives off acid. That's a contaminant. Those of you who work in pulp and paper mills, they get damaged. They get rust. Those of you who work around power plants, work around automobiles, pollution, particularly those who work around ethanol vapors, we have contamination. And finally, we have thermal cycling. Thermal cycling means hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold. Well, guess what? The metal expands, contracts, we get open grain. That's more ways for the contamination and the moisture to get in. That causes damage to our threads and our bolts. Okay, so how can we solve this problem? What can we do to prevent the rust, the damaged threads, the expansion and contractions? I'm going to give you 5 good answers. One, we can do nothing. If you live in a place where it's 72 degrees, 50% humidity, you're inside, you never have any hot and cold or no contamination, you probably don't need a new egg. Nothing. Two, we got good old motor oil right here. Been around for a long, long time. Works really good, it's really easy, very inexpensive, and it will give you some lubrication, and it'll give you some corrosion prevention. The problem with this is it breaks down, and you're left with nothing. Third, we can go to what's called a penetrating oil, PB Blaster, very well known, WD-40. Some call them CLPs, cleaning, lubrication, and protection. And there's this one, which is low viscosity, and there's Steel Camel, high viscosity. I'd like to take a minute and show you the difference. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to spray it, and you're going to see is low viscosity. It penetrates, it's wet. and it will drip off. Good because it penetrates, bad because it drips off. So if you want to put protection on it, you got to make sure it sticks to your nuts and bolts. Let's go to the little Steel Camel. Okay, you can see much more viscous. Okay, it's got a lot more body. It's got a lot more lubrication. It's actually got a lot more protection. And it's got a really unique formula to help you deal with contamination. So those are some basics. Now we're moving on. Remember we talked about extreme, hot and cold, contamination, stuff under force. Then we're going to go to these guys, anti-seize. Let's review. So when you're under a lot of torque, or a lot of pressure, or a lot of contamination, you have a choice. There's this guy right here. It's got metal in it, and it is sticky and gooey. It's got silver and it's got metal in there. It's excellent for high temperature applications. So your motors, your exhaust manifolds, your anything around your engine when it gets really hot, we recommend anti-seize. There's another one, called Steel Camel Thread and Post. A new product for us. Let me show you. Ooey, gooey, sticky. Okay, really lubricates. And you can get it all over your hands. Okay? And this thing is loaded with corrosion inhibitors and lubricants, and it really does a good job of keeping the threads lubricated. So you can get it on and off. It does a really good job of protecting against the contamination. So how do you tell? What do you do? How are you going to find out if it works for you? I'm going to give you 5 reasons. 1, test these nuts and bolts under torque. You can do it in your shop, you can do it out on your equipment, do it out in the field, really put it through the test. 2, I talked to you about water and moisture, this kind of stuff. Wet, get it wet. Put it out in the rain, put it out in the snow, put it out in the salt water. Really test it as it gets wet. 3, we talked about a good old road grime, metal shaving, dirt, dust, grime. Put some on there. Put it under salt. Put it underneath your car. See how it does when you have grime on there. That's very important. Okay? 4, you can really test it on your battery terminals. All you do, put a little bit on the inside and the nuts and bolts on your battery terminals. And for those of you who deal with equipment in high contamination areas, put a little bit on your electrical connectors, put a little bit on your electrical wiring, put a little bit on your light bulbs, where you need it, and really test it. So again, torque, water, grime, batteries, and electrical. And the final test you want to do is get it all over your hands. Okay? I encourage you to put this stuff all over your hands, and we'll see which one's easiest to get off. I'm going to come over here, that little Dawn dish soap. I'm going to start taking it off. Okay, put my rag in there. See how we do. Nice and easy. Take me a little paper towel. Seal it off. In here. Voila! Nothing on your hands. Steel Camel, we stick your nuts and bolts, not your hands. So, now you've seen a little bit, test from yourself. Below, I'm going to put some links so you can purchase a small amount. I'm going to put some links below so you can read about some independent testing. Our website is steelcamel.com. I encourage you, if you have rusty bolts and you've been relying on penetrants and reactive maintenance, try some preventative maintenance. This is Dan Jenkins, Professor Dan from Steel Camel. Thanks for watching.